It began with a smell, something like citrus left to rot in a time dilation field, and a sound like 1,000 wet rubber bands being snapped in unison. That was the arena warming up. Above the churning amber clouds of the gas giant Minertal, the interspecies tactical championship floated like a divine mistake. It wasn't built so much as bread, grown in the womb of a moon-sized mollusk, and reinforced with the bones of extinct judges. Spectators pulsed through its translucent skin, some in physical form, others as projected thought forms shaped like regret and platinum. The arena had no walls, only a curving horizon of uncertainty. The championship was war without war, bloodshed by subscription. What began as a treaty resolution among belligerent species had evolved, predictably, into a grotesque spectacle, televised violence with spiritual undertones and diplomatic side bets. Officially, it was a ritualized demonstration of tactical supremacy across diverse physiologies. Unofficially, it was a galactic equivalent of reality TV. If the losers dissolved and the winner's planet gained 5 trade routes and nuclear immunity for a fiscal year. Today's match was especially anticipated, not for the stakes. Those were petty, a dispute over asteroid resource rights between 2 mid-tier alliances, but because Earth had entered a combatant, again, and the galaxy loved nothing more than a farcical underdog story. Today, announced the voice of Glor the Expectorator, co-commentator and 30-time Sporeball champion, we witness the curious traditions of Earth. One of their females, it appears, is offering herself to the ritual slaughter. The camera drones drifted down past banners stitched with bioluminescent prayers, catching glimpses of the opposing species warming up. The Grox Crusades champion, a towering slab of plated muscle known as Exerzul, dragged his tri-bladed staff in lazy arcs, carving spirals in the carbon stone floor. He had personally incinerated 3 minor moons for exercise. He did not stretch. He did not blink. Across from him stood a human. Just one. She was average height, average build, in loose desert gear that looked more suited to a sandstorm than an intergalactic duel. Her hood was up, casting her face in shadow. Her rifle, if you could call the slender, matte black thing slung across her back a rifle, looked ancient by galactic standards. She didn't speak, didn't wave. She knelt and began tracing something in the dust. Ellie Vance, muttered Chinevo Contracts, the other commentator, a legal entity composed of 92 semi-autonomous spores and a highly caffeinated gavel. Human designation. Record, unknown. Psychological profile, contradictory. Notable quote, camouflage is more than hiding. It's choosing when to exist. She seems relaxed, Glor observed, his mucus-slick tendrils twitching. Do Earthlings often smile before execution? Ellie wasn't smiling. Not exactly. Her mouth had a half curve to it, the ghost of a private joke she hadn't shared yet. She finished drawing in the dust, a looping diagram that looked nonsensical until you squinted and realized it was a gravity contour map of the arena. She tapped 1 point twice, then covered it with her boot. Around her, spectators murmured. The Threx warbrood found her posture insulting. The Slan delegates, who existed primarily as patterns of cold in the air, detected no intent to intimidate, only stillness. Stillness was, to them, a weapon. She brought no armor, scoffed a Zynak noble with 32 eyes and 1 very large monocle. She brought camouflage, said a tiny insectoid watching through cracked lenses. They always bring camouflage. Hilarious. But this wasn't jungle terrain. No foliage, no rock cover, just a simulated desert. A tactical sandbox designed by the Vol Consortium to be the fairest unfair environment ever conceived. Light refracted strangely. Wind currents carried sound in deceptive spirals. Temperature shifted by the meter. It was perfect for most species. For humans, statistically lethal. Still, Ellie knelt. Still, she adjusted her scarf as if the breeze might matter. Still, she didn't flinch when Exorzul began his entrance ritual, hammering his staff into ground with bone-rattling force, each strike releasing a cloud of nanite ash meant to disorient nervous systems. It shimmered around him like black snow. Ellie didn't blink. From the VIP rings above, an Earth diplomat adjusted her sunglasses and muttered, "Here we go." The announcer orb, a levitating sphere made of compressed data and pure flare, swooped into the arena center and boomed. Combatants, prepare for tactical engagement. By the blood of treaties and the rhythm of bureaucracy, let this challenge commence. Exor-Zul grinned with all four jaws. Ellie stood. She's not even holding her weapon. Glor hissed. She's not even. Wait, where did it go? The rifle had vanished. Rewind footage would later show she'd unslung it and collapsed it into a shoulder pocket in a movement. So fluid it blurred across timecode. Some argued it was a neural trick. Others insisted the human had used sleight of hand, an Earth tradition involving illusion, distraction, and borderline cheating. The footage would be inconclusive. What was conclusive? She was no longer visible. She disappeared. Chineva shrieked, several of the spores shedding contracts in a panic. She's right there. Glor insisted, pointing wildly. Wait. No, she's not. Even Exor-Zul paused. His optical tentacle scanned. Thermal? Nothing. Sonic? Negative. Motion? A breeze, maybe. Or her breath. But it was gone before his nerves caught it. The arena went quiet. A field of over 11 million species. Some telepathic, others vibrational. Many simply here to drink. Sad in confused awe. She's not hiding, someone whispered. She's absent. Then a signal pinged the scoreboard. Ellie Vance, human, Earth entry. Status, present. 1 beat. 2. The bell rang, and the war began. Exor-Zul did not walk. He thundered. Each step cracked the carbon stone floor beneath his clawed feet, fracturing the carefully calibrated terrain like brittle glass. He moved with the inevitability of an extinction event, armor flexing with hydraulic precision. Every exhale releasing vapor that sizzled in the arena's atmosphere. His war staff, three-pronged and humming with anti-personnel charge, dragged behind him like a forgotten law. This was not showmanship. This was declaration. He scanned the landscape. Nothing. No trace of the human. Her heat signature had vanished. Her scent, faint iron, salted earth, had dissipated entirely. His optical tentacles reconfigured in frustration, seeking tremor readings, subsonic disturbances, energy fluctuations. The desert returned nothing but wind. She was here. Somewhere. He knew that. She had not left. But knowing and seeing were two different things, and Exor-Zul had never fought what he couldn't see. He snarled, deep and guttural, and pounded his chest, a war cry encoded with ultrasonic defiance. The arena echoed with it, and somewhere in the upper tiers, a Threx noble applauded politely while making discreet funeral bets. In the control booth, Chineva spiraled. This is a clear violation of visibility protocols. No rule states a combatant must be seen. Glor replied, slowly uncoiling one of his eye stalks. Only that they be present. She's present, which is much worse. Below, Exor-Zul bent to examine the dust. He was no fool, no simple beast. His victories had not come from brawn alone. His mind was a war-hardened engine, sharp, cunning, multi-layered. His tactics had dissolved navies. He had read every available dossier on human combat styles, reviewed Earth war footage, even hired a former Terran consultant who now floated in a nutrient tank muttering about mind games and mosquito swarms. He was prepared, or so he thought. A faint click behind him. He spun, lashing out with his staff, but it was only a piece of wind-blown equipment, a fragment of discarded drone. He crushed it reflexively, then froze. That wasn't coincidence. That was bait. A second click, somewhere to his left, not mechanical, organic. A breath? No. A shift in fabric? He took 3 bounding strides and slammed his weapon down, displacing a storm of dust. When it cleared, the ground bore no tracks, only the faint imprint of a boot sole, already evaporating under simulated heat. Above, the scoreboard remained unchanged. No contact registered. No damage inflicted. No point scored. The crowd grew restless. Some species chittered in irritation. Others blinked asynchronously in confusion. For them, combat was theater. This was avant-garde horror. She is not fighting. Exor-Zul growled into the void. She is haunting. Ellie Vance said nothing. She watched from her perch, barely a rise in the terrain, half shielded by optical distortion and a clever fold in the simulation's light mesh. She'd marked this position 3 hours earlier during orientation, then remapped it from memory after the arena's day cycle updated. From here, she could triangulate every sound Exorzul made, down to the twitch of his third toe claw. Her breathing remained slow, measured, lower than the vibration threshold of the arena's pulse monitors. Her rifle, collapsed and nested inside the hollow of her jacket, was now assembled, its matte black barrel cushioned against the flesh of her collarbone. No scope, no visible tech. All enhancements were internal, neural, and silent. Her HUD flickered in one eye, running projected trajectories in real time. Target acquisition, 84% probability. Lethality, not yet. She wasn't here to kill him. Not immediately. That would defeat the point. This was about misdirection. Disassembly. The long game. She moved her index finger a fraction, barely enough to twitch the trigger, then stopped. Exorzul had frozen again, head slowly turning toward the noise she hadn't made. In the command booth, analysts began panicking. The telemetry made no sense. The human's biosigns pulsed in irregular patterns, like heartbeat poetry. Her position data flickered, unstable, ghosting multiple points at once. She's pinging off the terrain like she's embedded in the sand, someone muttered. She's not in the terrain, the Earth diplomat replied, sipping something steaming. She is the terrain. Meanwhile, Exorzul tried another strategy. He dropped into a low stance, embedding one hand into the arena floor. His armor interfaced with the simulation's pulse net, attempting to force a terrain reset, an old Crusader trick for drawing out hidden enemies. But instead of flushing her out, it triggered something else entirely. A brief flicker across the horizon, a silhouette, Ellie standing, rifle aimed, hair lifting in the wind. He swung instantly, instinct guiding him. His staff carved a glowing arc through the mirage and met nothing, just dust and heat and a whisper of something too slow to be sound. His weapon spun into a defensive coil. Too late, a sonic crack. Sharp, distant, delayed. His left shoulder sparked, a glancing impact, not armor-piercing, but precise. His equilibrium faltered. The blow hadn't injured him, but it had shifted his balance by exactly 2 degrees. Enough to matter in a fight where perfection was currency. She could have aimed for the kill, chose not to, chose control. He roared, a true roar this time. Rage, not ritual. He launched forward, feet shattering the stone beneath him, hunting not a target but a ghost. Ellie slid sideways into the shadow of a structure no taller than her waist. Invisibility wasn't tech. It was understanding where attention never landed. Her hand rested against the sand. It was warm, dry, stable. She waited. Exorzul thundered past, sensors wide open, unaware his own echo was giving her a sonar map of every breath he took. This was not a fair fight, but not for the reasons he thought. Above, Geneva exhaled as 2 of his spores short-circuited from confusion. She's not fighting for spectacle. She's teaching something. What? Glor rasped, gripping the edge of his commentary booth. Geneva's voice dropped to a whisper. She's teaching him fear. Exorzul halted mid-charge, breathing hard now, not from exertion, from something older, something colder. For the first time in a long time, he was unsure where the next shot would come from, and for the first time ever, he realized it might already be on its way. Exorzul stopped moving. The war staff lowered half an inch. His breath slowed, not to recover, but to listen. The arena stretched out in heat mirage spirals around him, distorted and blurring, as if the simulation itself was nervous. There was no enemy, no target, only the gnawing certainty that he was being watched. He pivoted slowly, not out of fear, he refused to name it that, but calculation, strategy. His sensors recalibrated, filtering for the subtlest deviation. Bent light, displaced dust, electromagnetic silence where there should be background noise. Still nothing. Above, the audience grew agitated. Aliens of every configuration, From gas bags to armor-plated aristocrats, murmured in languages that bent throat and gravity. Most had seen hundreds of death matches. None had ever seen absence. The camera orb scanned the arena in tighter and tighter spirals, trying to lock onto the human. The feed kept returning negative. The scoreboard showed match active, and yet there was no human to display. She was somewhere, and nowhere. Are we certain she hasn't withdrawn? Glor asked, tension leaking into his normally sardonic lilt. Chineva, reconstituted and quivering, shook his entire spore cloud. With all due respect, if she had withdrawn, he wouldn't still be sweating. Exorzul was indeed sweating. His armor's inner seals hissed, as coolant systems strained to compensate. Not from heat, from overclocked adrenaline, from muscles ready to snap. He turned again, and that's when he saw it. Not her. A stone, smooth, round, utterly unremarkable, sitting 5 degrees off-center from where it had been 2 minutes ago. Not thrown, not disturbed by wind, just moved, on purpose, for him. He exploded forward, charging toward the rock like it had insulted his ancestors. Dust kicked up in seismic waves behind him. He brought his staff around in a whirling arc, preparing to slam down with the force of a tectonic shift. The staff stopped midair. He froze, blinking. No resistance, no contact, just out, in that fraction of hesitation. A faint sound sliced through the static, sharp, minimal, like a fingernail tapping glass. Then came the strike. The shot was not loud. It did not crack like thunder or split atoms with cinematic flair. It whispered, the kind of whisper that undoes balance. A sliver of armor near his right hip splintered inward, precise, non-lethal, yet designed to trigger a proprioceptive fault. Exorzul stumbled a half-step, overcorrected, and slammed one knee into the ground. His fall sent a tremor through the arena. The crowd gasped, some inhaling oxygen, others inhaling pure surprise. The camera orbs didn't even catch the shot. She didn't aim for damage, Glor murmured, eyes wide. She aimed for movement. She's disassembling him, Chineva whispered, half in awe, half in terror. From the outside in. Ellie blinked once, reset her breath. The rifle nestled against her shoulder, like it belonged to her bones. Her body had not shifted more than a hair's width since the match began. Every muscle calibrated to stillness. Her heartbeat was synced with the arena's hum. Her eyes, however, moved constantly, measuring, recalculating, waiting for the moment the field turned in her favor. That moment was close. Her HUD flickered a new value, trajectory crosspoint achievable in 3.4 seconds. She watched as Exorzul rose, snarling, dignity rattled. He looked up into the camera feed. Face me, coward. Silence. Then her voice, soft and modulated, came through the arena's comm net. I did. You blinked. Gasps rolled through the crowd like storm ripples. Some species convulsed. Others hissed in appreciation. Exorzul lost control. He launched into a sprint, faster than before, sensors flaring wide, weapons whirring. His staff lashed side to side, slicing air into shards. He left a trail of annihilated cover. Pillars, dunes, structures crushed beneath his rage. But nothing struck her, because she wasn't there. Not anymore. Each time he neared what felt like presence, it dissolved. She was a breath too far, a shadow just past reach. The faint scent of dust where she'd been, but no longer was. He circled wide now, switching tactics again. A full scan sweep, triangulating reflections, trying to use the ambient heat to map interference. His logic was flawless, but Ellie had already accounted for it. She'd mapped this tactic 20 minutes before the match began, during a coffee break, using only a chalk stick and a weather report. She had accounted for his rage, his pattern, his spiral, so she left a trail. Just one, a small, deliberate scuff in the sand. Human footprint, no more than half a shoe's length. He found it, and lunged. That was a trap. As his foot landed on the marked position, her next round fired. This time it was louder, not for show, but because this shot was designed to fracture. Not kill, not yet, just break enough to expose. The bullet struck the joint at the base of his upper right arm, precisely where armor met tendon. It didn't pierce. It didn't need to. The sonic vibration shattered his equilibrium node. He spun out, fell, and for the first time, Exor Zul stayed down longer than a breath. In the VIP box, someone dropped a goblet. Another adjusted their will. She's not trying to defeat him in combat, Glor murmured. She's proving something larger. Chineva finished the thought. That camouflage is not concealment. It's control. Exor Zul pushed himself upright again, breathing heavy, muscles twitching under scorched armor. His head snapped side to side, scanning. Everything was wrong now. He could hear her in the silence. He could feel her without contact. And finally, he looked scared. Ellie watched through the rifle's soft blue shimmer. One round left. The simulation's wind shifted. The lighting dimmed. Arena standard, signaling final engagement phase. She checked her vitals. Normal. She looked at the HUD. Target confidence, 98%. The field was empty. Until it wasn't. The final round wasn't fired in haste. It arrived like a verdict. Exor Zul stood exposed in the center of the arena, armor chipped, staff dragging behind him, optics twitching with erratic feeds. The warlord who once crushed plasma tanks beneath his boots now blinked at shadows, unsure which ones belonged to him. Every breath he took was too loud. Every movement betrayed him in echoes. He turned slowly, trying not to reveal how off-center his balance had become. His system stuttered as they recalculated, flickering warnings in languages he hadn't programmed. He didn't notice the dust rise behind him, not from motion, but recoil. Soundless. Clean. Ellie didn't flinch when she pulled the trigger. The round moved on a line shaped by 3 gravities, time between heartbeats, designed not just to penetrate but to erase the moment. It passed through the narrow sliver where Exor Zul's cranial plate split for cooling, a vulnerable seam the width of a lie. The bullet did not explode. It simply whispered its way in, and Exor Zul's body dropped 1 frame behind his soul. No scream, no drama, just gravity doing its work. A soft, almost reluctant thud. And the crowd, millions strong, some suspended in liquid, some vibrating in starlight, froze. Not a breath, not a blink, not even a cheer. Silence bloomed, huge and sacred. In the commentary booth, Glor tried to speak, failed, then cleared his throat with a noise like collapsing jellyfish. She terminated the match. Chineva was still, spores pale, with a single confirmed visual. Glor nodded, eyes unfocused. An entire fight. Chineva's voice dropped. Camouflage wasn't her defense. It was a promise. The scoreboard pinged. Final status. Earth victory. 1 shot. 0 misses. 0 wasted movement. On the field, Ellie stood for the first time in full view, not rising from shadows or trickery, just rising, like she'd been there all along, crouched behind patience. She slung her rifle, adjusted her scarf. Nothing theatrical. No grin. No salute. Then she walked. Up in the diplomatic tier, the Earth envoy tilted her sunglasses down and smiled faintly. Around her, bureaucrats flailed, some shouting protest, others demanding a replay. Trade envoys from 3 sectors tried to void their bets. The Threx delegate fainted mid-complaint. A Zynak legal bloom exploded into litigation spores. She didn't even speak to the audience, hissed the Grok's chieftain. What does that mean? The human diplomat shrugged. Means she wasn't performing. She was working. Across the galaxy, reaction videos ignited. Analysts broke the footage frame by frame, only to discover Ellie was never fully visible in a single frame until the final shot. One AI reporter refused to run coverage, declaring, subject data insufficient. Recommend mythologizing instead. The Groks declared 3 days of mourning. They demanded an inquiry. They cited 37 tactical violations that didn't exist and proposed a ban on psychological disruption via implied presence. The Council of Tactical Legitimacy convened an emergency session. They found nothing actionable, not a rule broken, not a move outside bounds. They called it an anomaly. Earth called it Tuesday. Ellie declined post-match interviews. She did not attend the victory feast, which mostly involved six-legged creatures dissolving forks in acid and yelling at projections of past champions. Instead, she boarded her shuttle without a word, filed a 3-line report, and returned home. Home was not a fortress, not a temple, not even a government compound. Home was dust, a desert on earth where shadows stretched long and silence didn't need explanation. She walked alone along a dry riverbed, boots crunching against shale. The wind pushed at her scarf, but she didn't mind. She paused once near a sandstone outcrop and dropped to one knee. The position matched the one in the arena. The difference was a sound. Birds here, not drones. Wind here, not simulation hum. She rested her rifle across her lap and looked up, just sky, uncontested. Behind her, a coyote stood quietly on a rise, watching, not afraid, not curious, just present. She met its gaze. Stillness isn't hiding, she said softly, almost to herself. It's waiting for the moment worth moving. The coyote didn't respond. It turned and loped off, fading into heat shimmer. She sat a while longer, letting time pass without agenda. There was no crowd, no warlord, no scoreboard, just gravity and breath, and the promise she'd made long before the arena, the promise that when it mattered, they'd see her, and only then. Far away, across 100 systems, whispers grew in backrooms and barracks. Soldiers trained harder. Commanders rewrote playbooks. One Navy replaced its camouflage entirely. Ineffective, they said, compared to Earth's silent ghosts. And in dark corners of alien space, children played a new game. They called it Vanished. One would crouch, alone and still, and the others would search, and search, and search.